I got done cleaning fish a couple minutes ago.
Oh, did you deep fry them?
No, I just got done cleaning them.
Oh, well, you could have set the fryer up outside.
Yeah, well,
Could have
2
ate right
eyes
after.
wouldn't quite do
Oh,
it.
wasn't do it, eh? Longer than mine.
20 and 16.
Need one
Go
down.
to the bay this morning, so I had the ice chest over. It wasn't too bad. Sweatshirt, but it was getting back. 15 feet.
No, they had a day in there, they had a front day.
Dancing Dash. Kolomsky Reeves.
Right.
Okay. Okay.
Is it on?
You got to point to the
Sean's
front.
meeting?
You got to come to the front.
Oh,
Yep.
I've got it from the back.
Need no order. Half order. Okay, if you'd all please rise and join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Again? Yeah. Okay. All right, second roll call. Brennan? Here. Dremmel? Here. Van Dyke? Here. Vananek? Here. Zawallo? Here. And we got Wetzel and Messerschmidt here. And present, we have Minty, Fire Chief, Bonnie, Police Chief, and Scott Miney, Building Inspector, all present. Thank you. All right, approved agenda, item 7.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as written.
Motion by Van Dyke to approve the agenda as written.
Second.
There's a typo. It says minutes from July 26th. It should say 24th.
Oh, okay.
So if we can just amend it.
Can we amend that to say Randy?
So amended.
Okay, amended for July 24. Randy, second. Second by Tremmel. Any other comments, questions? All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Okay. Item 8, public comments on matters not on the agenda or any other announcements. Public comments not on matters not on the agenda or other announcements. Anybody? Okay, hearing none, move on to item 9, consideration of minutes from July 24, 2017 and August 1, 2017 meetings.
Approve the minutes of July 24, 2017 and August 1, 2017.
Okay, motion by Van Dyke, second by Brennan. Any other comments, questions? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Item 10, consideration of payment of 2 invoices and wages.
A motion to approve 2 invoices and wages is listed.
Motion by Brennan, second by Van Dyke. Questions, comments?
I had a question or concern about the new membership fee of $2,000. I checked my house this morning and still we're receiving Ashwaubenon. I did a survey of 2 neighbors in the last 3 weeks who also are still receiving Ashwaubenon. I know Lanny today pointed out to me he got an email stating that they assured him that 99%, 9% are receiving Lawrence minutes, but until I'm assured that we're at 100% coverage, I'd like to at least hold this for the next meeting, if they can come and present this. I can resurvey some of my neighborhood again and find out if any of them have changed since you received that email. But I'd just like to hold it at least 2 weeks till I'm positively sure they're getting full coverage as they promise and state. So that's my concern.
Brian Luth, Director of UI, I contacted him tonight, and he asked if he could be on the 28th meeting, and he would go through any issues or whatever we had. Now, on the memo that he sent me, there wasn't a date, but it was sent last week, so I don't know if they're saying 99.9% will be on, and it's coming up, or whatever. But he said he would be here on the 28th too to explain, and he did make the comment that we have the largest viewing audience in our town of any municipality in New York, except Brown County. In other words, if you were to take the other towns and villages, we have the largest viewing, so five, I think 5 or 6. Yeah, but that's still, they're all, most of them are bigger now.
I know at the last commissioners meeting, there was, the last meeting that was televised, there was 67 people that viewed it. That had to click on it. So they went either through Google, or they went on the New Eye Facebook, or they went through the Brown County thing. So there are, people are viewing it outside of it being on the TV. So, and our numbers keep climbing, so.
So I don't happen to know if that memo meant that it's being fixed or whatever, but he's assuring. And I understand where Randy's coming from. The only thing I hate doing is not paying bills, but that's another issue. So.
Okay. We can amend it to hold back that payment until we can talk about it next meeting.
Yeah, he will be here next meeting.
But I'll try to get a few people surveyed again and see if they've noticed any changes.
Why don't you wait till tomorrow and see?
Well, that's fine.
Yeah.
I'll do it. Okay.
Kurt, on the command vehicle, are we having, I keep seeing bills coming, are we having problems, or are we going?
No, we're building it ourselves, Ken. We have different vendors doing different levels of work on it.
Okay.
We bought the truck, and then we had a guy who installed the lights, and then the company installed the cap, company do the graphics, that
Okay.
kind of stuff.
All right, okay. I was wondering why the bills.
No, yeah, that's why.
I also talked to Pat about some of the bills, like the legal bill, that would be eventually moved to the TIF development, I'm sure. And maybe some of the McMahon stuff for the water main loop. Williams Landscape tree planting, is that some of the fruit trees we received that they're planting, or what was that?
That's always I understand, yeah.
Yeah. The fruit trees from the Packers?
I think so.
Okay. Okay, that was all the questions I had.
The slow side tire, the new Holland tractor, is that another tractor issue? That's
Yep,
not the
tire.
Hobart one?
We had another 5 tire, but the tire is repaired this time. They can repair it, so not replaced, correct. And they're fixing the one that was damaged in Hobart, so we'll have a spare, if you want to say. But that's back at the factory, they had to vulcanize it, whatever, yeah. So
Figured
it's
the
only a couple
smaller-
$100, but.
Smaller bill was not a replacement.
Yeah, it was just he drove over something, we couldn't find a lot of water, we popped the whole tire. So,
So we're approving everything except the 2,000, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Any other comments, questions? Okay, we have a motion, right? So, okay, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. 11, consideration of operator's license for the period of July 1, 2017 to June 30th, 2018.
So move.
So moved by Van Dyke.
Second.
Second by Van Dyke. All been approved, Randy? Okay. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Consideration 12, consideration of rerouting the Snowmobile Trail on Little Rapids Road as requested by the Snowmobile Club. Patrick.
There's a request that had come in, you have it in the packet here from the Snowmobile Club. What they are looking to do is amend the actual trail itself as it runs through Little Rapids. So you have, I believe it's actually an ordinance form that designates north and south side of the road on Little Rapids between the two frontage roads as being the designated trail. What they're looking to do here, and I believe there are some members of the club that are here, maybe even to speak if that's appropriate. But essentially what you have is the request, and there's a petition, they do have signatures on there, requesting the ability to amend the route, but in the intent of where they're going through, I mean, it's essentially the same.
Right, but in this amendment, when you start out from French Road, that's not right of way. So they have to have permission from the landowner. And also, it looks like they get into Milk Source property because that's a narrow, I think that's only I don't know if that's 66 or 60 foot right away, I forget right now. But it looks by what they got drawn here, you're going to be in them fields, so do they have permission? Bob, do you have permission on those?
Yes.
Okay. And then the other, ours, of course, would be where the culvert is. And you're gonna come up on the road there.
Right.
Okay.
Motion opens the floor. I'll give these guys time to stay run down.
Okay. Motion by Brennan, second by Trump. Okay, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, the floor is open. If you'd like to make a comment. Please state your name and your address for it.
My name's Bob Van Enable. I'm with the West of Pierce Snowmobile Club. I live on 1550 Quarry Park Drive, apartment 10. In previous years, we've had the trail going through the woods, which would be just south of Little Rapids Road. Trail went through there. An individual purchased 10 acres in the middle of it last 2 years ago and gave us permission for 2 years, but it said not for this coming season because he plans on building a house, I don't know where, but someplace back in there, and doesn't want snowmobile trail going through there. We looked at options of moving our trail where we could go from, basically from the other side of Highway 41 going east. And two options. One was to go over the overpass on Highway F. The other one was going underneath where we got permission from used in the past to use underneath the bridge on Little Rapids Road. So our other option was using Little Rapids Road going to Lawrence Drive as a snowmobile route. Now we're going to try, we have permission from landowners where we could get off of the road and run the trail. We have to be 40 feet off the road. And the only thing when we do come onto the road, at night you have to travel with the traffic flow. So at the end of either one of these, either end of it, where we come onto the road, in other words, if you're going west, you'd have to cross over and go along the edge of the road on the plowed portion, but along the edge of the road to get back on the trail on the west side again. Same would happen on the other end of the trail. You'd have to cross the road and go along the edge before it goes back into the field again. We'd like to see the whole road just made as a snowmobile route, although we're definitely going to try and get in the fields instead. But by making it a snowmobile route, you know, here's 1 foot and you're not in compliance because you crossed the road at the wrong point or you bypassed where it's legal. We figured if it'd be a lot easier if the whole road was just made a snowmobile route.
Do we have any, would there be any liability for us to grant that?
No.
These towns up north, Randy, they run these ATVs and snowmobiles the whole thing. They, County W didn't allow ATVs for years. They got signs out there now, and your limit to is 25 miles an hour. You're allowed to use it.
I might add, Matt Creasy with Brown County Parks. One thing with the snowmobile routes is it has to be signed appropriately to be legal, and then that takes the liability on a snowmobile trail does not fall on the property owner or the town. So that would be something that I would assume the county and the club.
And that's for
would-
private property also? That's, okay.
Yep. Yeah, that's how, in Brown County, we have 192 miles of snowmobile trail. Across the state, 25,000 miles. So with 192 miles, you can only imagine a lot of towns and villages do have snowmobile routes.
Also, this is a main corridor trail. If you think of a corridor, it's like 41 going north. This is a main corridor trail for snowmobiles. And it's made for people that come from Wrightstown, which is coming across the bridge there, that new bridge. And they can head north or west to wherever they want to go. So, little information, Matt thought snowmobile trails. If you think of all the state highways, 41, 43, there's more miles of state-funded snowmobile trails than there are miles of state highways in the state of Wisconsin.
Any other comments that you guys have? What's that?
Is that? Oh, it is the next one in there? Perfect. Thank you very much. So that essentially what they're looking at, and I should clarify too, I'm not sure if I said it clearly, but right now between the two frontage roads going under Highway 41 or I-41 is where the designated trail is by ordinance. What they're looking for then is what would essentially be an amendment to the ordinance that would expand this then to Lawrence Drive, but at those, I think the red areas on the map where it's either in the right of way across the road. If you found it to be appropriate.
Just to clarify, is there any signage from the town's point, or will you handle all the signage?
We will handle all this.
We'll handle this.
I think one thing is, it would have to be a coordinated effort because those green signs typically go on a local sign, so obviously the town would want to work with it. Yeah, to make sure that is this appropriate where this sign would be placed.
Kenny, do we have any issues with road,
Now, if this is,
road abuse or road?
this is an older road that is eventually gonna have to get replaced in the future. I wouldn't have a problem with that, running down the road, the old road. We're still doing it on a yearly basis, is that right? And if you start to see some damage, then maybe you make a change from that, because I know that snowmobiles still run cleats on some of these. You can get some damage. What is the speed limit on something like that, do you know?
55 at night. And
It
any
is for
posted,
snowmobile?
yeah, any speed limit that's posted on
On a road.
a road, that's a speed limit. We can put signs up for
Slow them down.
Yep.
I'm okay with the same as the street. I'm good with that. Otherwise, I see it as a problem if it's lower.
Yeah.
Well,
If it's lower than the street, then we're gonna have a different issue.
It's not a high traffic street.
Right. But I mean, if they're going 25 and the rest of the traffic's going 45, now we're gonna have an issue.
I wouldn't even.
And I don't see that as
25.
snowmobiles going 25 anyway, but.
55. If we're done, I'd make a motion to close it for us.
Okay, motion by Ken. Do you guys have any other comments?
I got a question.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, what?
Chief Bonnie, do you have any concerns on this at all?
I don't.
Okay.
I know the speed limit is whatever the posted road is, and like Randy said, if you try to slow them down, then we'll probably have more issues, so.
Yeah, I agree.
That's all I wanted to know.
And Kurt, you'll help with the signs.
Yeah, whatever we'll do. We have some signs.
All right?
That means 55, not 80. It's a straight shot.
Yeah, I used to ride snowmobiles. So, okay, thank you for your input. So a motion by Ken to close the floor.
Second.
Second by Tremel, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries, floor is closed. Okay, back to the item, consideration, number 12, rerouting snow route Trail, Little Rapids Road is requested by the Snowmobile. Motion?
Do we have to do the ordinance or?
Yeah. But are we gonna vote on the ordinance here?
Well, you don't have an ordinance in front of you, so the
Okay.
question would be, if you wanted to allow for this,
Yeah.
what I would ask, and it's just a request, is that you allow, maybe for the next meeting, that we present it to you in ordinance form to whatever your wishes
Okay.
are.
Okay.
Because it would just be in 2 weeks, so it wouldn't be anything,
Okay.
big delay.
You understand? We'll bring an ordinance in 2 weeks.
If that's what you vote on, that's what you vote
Yeah,
on.
that's what
I don't see anybody having an issue.
No, I don't think
Public
that's,
hearing issue.
And that's the next question I had too, was there are some ordinances that require a public hearing.
Yeah.
And the question would be on this, what is the town's process for ordinance amendments? You can always have a public hearing if you'd like to.
If we're amending this one, we have to do whatever it was when it was adopted.
And we'd have to look back on that, so I'm not certain exactly
And
what it
that's
was.
fine, I don't see any urgency here, if it's 2 weeks or 4 weeks, right? It's still summer.
It's not gonna snow tomorrow. Buy it now.
Oh, this Wisconsin.
Okay, I move to approve the rerouted snowmobile trail from, actually, we're coming from, we're still
The
starting.
west side,
French,
the west
but
side
other
of
part is
41
from
to.
French Road to Lawrence Drive,
Yes.
and that they could use Little Rapids Road for that route.
all right.
I'll
Motion by
second.
Kent, second by Vandenack. Any other questions? Okay, so we'll have another in 2 weeks, or if we need a hearing, it'll be a little later.
We'll redo the ordinance.
What's that?
We'll redo the ordinance.
We'll do the ordinance, yeah. So all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Item 13, consideration of full final payment due to West Pierce School District as required by infrastructure improvement agreement, the amount of $4,308.50.
So this is part of that assessments that was brought forward. The board had approved granting Doug Powers the pavement plan. This is his portion that is due to the school district.
Okay.
And the mayor contract is written that when it became due and payable, it was due in 30 days, regardless if we got paid or not. Otherwise, we're going to charge interest in the school district. So my question to the board is, I'm asking for permission to go ahead and pay it so that we don't have to pay the interest to the school. So that's what I'm looking for. And then Doug's payment schedule is 10 equal payments for the next 10 years. So as we get paid from him, it'll be on tax roll. So we'll get paid property tax, something like that with the property. Or if the property sells prior to, it's due and payable at that time. So we're not out money per se, if you will.
Just getting reimbursed slowly.
Correct. So that's what I'm asking for, is if you could go ahead and authorize me to make the payment to the school district so that we won't be charged interest.
Do we have to stay where that's coming from?
It's coming out of sewer water fund. That's what it's charged.
I'm just,
Yeah, no, it's a receivable on our books, so it just comes, it'll satisfy the receivable, or payable, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'll make the motion to make the payment to West Pierce Schools for $4,308.50.
Okay, motion by Green. Second by Trumbull. Any other questions or comments? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. 14, consideration of appointment of Larry Bolt, Board of Appeals.
I'd like to make that.
I think I will.
Well, actually, go ahead.
Yeah, I make a motion to put Larry Bolt on the Board of Appeals. Second by Trumbull. Any questions?
Yeah.
Yeah, is he capable of that?
I think he's fully capable.
That's why we
Rough crowd, Larry.
Who's Larry?
He don't look different.
Yeah.
See that long hair that sits in back?
Yeah. That's it.
Yeah, no, I have a legitimate question. Is he replacing somebody?
Yes.
And who is that?
Jason
Okay.
Moss.
And Is it, it's not allowable to have a board member on that appeals board, correct?
I don't
Is
know.
that what ended up changing?
That's correct. You can have planning and zoning members, but not board members.
Okay.
There'd be a conflict and.
Yep. Well, and
Potentially.
I used to be on that board, and I thought it was always a conflict, because I got to vote on the same things twice.
Right.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Okay, just checking.
Yeah. Larry, just a comment, thanks for all you do for the town, appreciate it. Okay, welcome. All right, so item 14, consideration for appointment of Larry Moulton to Board of Appeals. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. 15, recommendations from the Planning and Zoning Board. A, consider sign review for Keller Williams Realty, 1674 Eisenhower Road by Creative Sign Incorporated.
Kelly Lax, Creative Sign. Basically what we're doing is new wall signage, and in working with Scott, we're removing the existing monument sign, which is not compliant, and installing a new monument sign which will comply with the setbacks requirement, and all the square footage is allowed as well.
Anything we need to know, Scott?
No, everything submitted was compliant, somewhere in here I have the total, once I get back to the top here. Right, so because of their, the frontage along Eisenhower Mid Valley, they're well under the allowed total square footage, so everything is compliant. They're gonna be moving that monument sign back, and it was approved by the planning and zoning.
A motion approved. Okay, motion by Brandon. Second. Second by Trumbull. Any other comments, questions? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Item B, consider sign review for Impact Sports Academy, 1800 Sherring Road. Want to just comment on it, or they just want to be here?
Yeah, so Jason Birkin, this is for his business. He actually is in business tonight. He has some tryouts. He did RSVP. His regrets that he meant to be here tonight, but he did want to come before the board, though officially maybe at the next meeting or sometime in September, so.
The sign meets all requirements, right?
Yeah, it's only 66 square feet, they're allowed up to 200 on that building. There's on the front and then around on the side, there's the same graphic as what's shown there. So, yeah, it's compliant.
Move to approve the sign review for Impact Sports Academy, 1800
Okay, motion by Vanderhyde, second by Trumbull.
I got a question.
Go ahead, Brandon.
My only concern, and I was sure at the planning and zoning when this came up, was that the signs went up before the approval process. Like, are we careful about that? Is this rare, or is that?
We're gonna be charging them double for
Oh,
for the square footage of signage that's up there.
I don't want to throw cold water.
No, and
He's a friend of my
it's
son's
fairly,
and everything.
it's fairly minimal, so I talked to him about it. If it was anything more than that, we could.
Anything
we
more
have-
permanent
we
or
have other-
major, I'd
We have other things we could do to slow the process, but we know, we met with him early in the process when he was still looking for a home in the town.
Location.
So there was good communication there, it's just somebody jumped the gun and put the signs up while he was trying to get us there.
This is rare, then it doesn't happen that way very often.
Pretty much, so and if it does, we make sure it doesn't happen again, but he didn't use a sign company either, he went out and ordered
Did
the
his own.
signs and put them up there.
All right,
so,
that was my only concern.
yeah.
Okay, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item C, consider site review for Best Built Storage, 1519 Grant Street by Robert E. Lee. You guys have any comments? Or?
Pretty much the same, last three meetings. We did finalize the plans as far as the masonry coverage is on it, anything you see from one of the residents or from the road is showing masonry. The fencing that's going to be around the building, they're going to be vinyl fencing with electronic gate to let the people in and out, but it will be locked at 9 o'clock at night for the lease that we attached with it also.
I got one question. I heard mention of the detention pond being a biofilter with no water standing. Can you explain that a little bit better to me? I know that was a concern of one neighbor, and I just want to be able to explain to him how that's going to be.
Basically, it doesn't hold water.
It's vegetated life.
Vegetated
The water-
life.
We have several in the town already.
Okay.
The water filters through in the vegetated life, and there's some.
There's no standing water?
No standing water.
Okay.
Yeah,
We're hoping
that's
that
fine.
would
It's
be
not
sure.
extra. We have them down by Jerry Van Loon's house.
If I'm telling somebody that, I want to make sure I know what I'm talking about.
Any questions?
I don't have any. Does anybody else? That's a good question, Art. Anybody else have a question?
Approve site review of breast built storage, 1519 Grand Street.
Okay, motion by Vandehei,
Second.
second by Trump.
Could you mention stormwater review by McMahon?
Did you do?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Scotty.
Pending review from McMahon for
Oh, penny,
stormwater.
oh, okay. Is that okay?
McMahon has it now, he'll be looking at
Yeah, I
it.
thought that
I
was.
did too when they talked about this bio thing. I thought,
Okay.
Right, and that's McMahon will be reviewing that as part of it.
When will that review be
With
done?
review of McMahon.
This week, I would.
Okay.
All right.
Review will be done this week.
I just don't want to.
Yes, okay, thanks, Kenny.
contingent on, yes.
Okay, all right. Second by Trump. Okay, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Yep. Consider public hearing for the amendment of pool ordinance 325, info related to automatic pool covers. Scott, you want to comment?
Sure, this is a couple months ago, well, but a few months ago now, this was brought up from a resident to the town board. You kicked it back to the planning and zoning, asking planning and zoning to look into this a little bit, draft some ordinance, language if they felt appropriate. After, well, we didn't have a meeting for a couple months, so it straightened out a little bit. But after some discussion on this, the step forward for this would be to revise our current ordinance, which, let me just get the language here. So our current ordinance, paragraph 9 on the fence section, section F, reads fence requirements may be waived only by approved conditional use permit issued by the town board. And what the proposed language is now that we would add the statement that's up there, that minimum 1.5 acres, a conditional use permit will only be issued for parcels, may not be issued, sorry, for parcels under 1.5 acres. So that would keep the ordinance essentially as we have it, where you'd still have to come to the town board for conditional use permit, but takes away any chance of smaller parcels, anything less than an acre and a half, to come even ask for the conditional use permit. It still leaves in place that mechanism for review, but that was, they felt with some input from residents, the board felt that it was a step forward, but still keeping a restriction for unique places like on the river and larger lots. So this is what was proposed to you. You can not move forward, or you can move forward to public hearing and drafting or creating an ordinance amendment.
Just a point of clarification, other area communities, who has what?
It's listed here.
Yeah, the
staff review there.
Yeah,
I know,
Deep Hobart.
I want it said.
Yeah, Deep Hobart, Nashwabanon, and Howard require fences, no exceptions for automatic pool covers or anything. Callaway, Bellevue, Ledgeview allow pool covers by permit. So we're kind of in the middle, but what we're doing is not out of the ordinary.
Thank you, Scott. Okay. Preference of the board?
So just for clarification, it's based on the size of the lot, not if it's different zoning rural residential.
Exactly.
Right?
We went with size of the lot because there are some R1 that are larger and yard that,
Like in my block, if I got 2.1 acres, I could still file for a permit.
right. And 1.5 is the minimum for a estate residential lot, so Green Brook and things like that are gonna already be at that 1.5 or larger.
And then it would still need our approval, because if they got a whole bunch of neighbors and da-da-da, it's probably not a good idea.
It's still conditional.
But then it's gonna fall on us,
Yep.
and everybody who's got 1.5 acres is gonna feel they are justified in getting one. It's basically gonna put it that they're gonna expect to get one because they're 1.5.
Right.
We don't have to adopt this, we can adopt no exceptions.
So the
No matter what size lot you have, there's gonna be a fence around your pool.
I still like the flexibility for somebody that's well in the rural area, maybe by Kevin or somewhere. I'm saying that.
Yeah, this request actually came to me, the gentleman and a few of his neighbors actually kind of came to me at an event and were questioning me as far as why we don't allow it, especially in the larger areas like Bainbrook or other rural subdivisions like that, where you're talking very large lots. In most cases, you don't have kids running from here to there and, going through the neighborhood. They did cite a lot of other communities that do allow it. And
On the same token, though, there's more communities that don't.
Right.
that's just in the immediate surroundings. I guess nationally, they cited some facts. I don't know if that's correct or not. Nationally, it is a trend that is growing. The technology is getting better, the covers are getting better. It is something that is becoming accepted. I told them to come with facts, and I told them that this is probably the means of going about it is through ordinance, not through just trying to get it for yourself, but trying to get it for, the community as a whole, because I said we're not going to want to do this one at a time every single time either.
Yeah.
There needs to be some type of a benchmark made. Whether we're either allowing it or we're not allowing it.
Well, the thing is, this came to us, 2 years ago? And they came with all the facts, and we approved it without a fence. Then, whatever it was, 6 months ago or whatever, and they came in, and it kind of the facts that we had earlier may not have all been true. About how you can walk on it, no water, and all this type of stuff.
Yeah.
Well, it kind of sounds like that we maybe got either some misinformation or somebody kind of padded it to get it through. I don't know what took place there, but
Well, the lots up by you, the one that we refused is 2.8, right, acres?
Yeah, actually, I think it's.
It's bigger than the
it's
gentleman
over
that's
three.
asking now.
Yeah, I think it was 3.
oh,
Three
as
something.
long as we're on that topic, did the people who we denied actually put up a fence?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
In retro.
What's that?
I don't know, I still don't like the idea myself because I think it's just a flat out safety issue. And
The neighbors still think it's the gold standard, the fence of safety. I don't know if I agree or disagree. You can open a gate and leave it open versus
Yes.
leaving it. There's pros and cons on it. Left and right.
there's pros and cons on any way you do this,
Yeah.
whether it's a fence and a cover. If you have both.
But a fence is definitely a bigger deterrent.
And it makes the neighbors feel safe. And
Yeah,
it's hard to argue.
and even if it's a dog or a deer or something, in our neighborhood, that stuff's running around out there.
Just
I have
throwing it
no
out there.
problem moving forward with the conditional 1.5 acres personally.
But Randy's right, it's gonna come back. right here.
It's all gonna come back right on us,
Case by case.
and everybody's gonna expect it if the ordinance allows it.
First of all, they shouldn't expect anything.
But that's the way it works.
We're talking human nature.
Well, and on the, you know, and on the same token, as far as the safety, I mean, there's so many laws that we have and so many ordinances that we have that are such common sense, but we had to put them in place because people didn't have the common sense on their own to do it.
Yeah. That's always, laws are made to be broken.
You know, so do we take that extra safety factor, or?
I don't have a
I
problem
mean,
either way.
do we have any liability of any sort if we allow no fences?
No, I
That
don't.
kind of was said poorly. I think you know what I meant.
That was checked into a couple of years ago.
You know what I mean. If we say there's no fence and some kid dies, are we gonna end up in a lawsuit?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know.
Even if there's a fence, they can still come after us for approving their own type of fence.
This was all run through the wire a couple of years ago when we did this. We were,
Maybe we
Not
should
liable.
visit that again and also, what kind of liability are we up for if we,
What I was told last time, as long as we have the conditional use permit procedure, as long as we follow due process, there is no liability. I mean, there's always, anybody can try to sue anybody for anything, but as long as we go through the process, we take a look at each individual circumstance as it is, which is what the conditional use permit is for. I mean, that mechanism alone, just, you know, that whether we're talking about pools or anything else in ordinance, that allows us to look at each situation unique, whether somebody's trying to have a car dealership or a pool. So there's very little liability, in my opinion, by looking at each circumstance. In this case, we're just having to look at pools.
This is a tough one, because what you said is absolutely true. The thing that bothers me is I just 6 months ago told a guy no, who had 3+ acres. Now I got another guy coming out with 1.5.
but we could tell him no also.
depending on where, I mean, if it's in town, I don't care if he's got 3 acres, if there's, 27 houses on this block, it's a bad idea.
Yeah, well, that's what we
That's
agreed.
what the situation was.
Right. Well, and if this should come, we also got to consider a revocation process too, in case, I mean, if the neighbor calls and says, hey, their pool's open again and I don't see any adult on the premise. And then, does an adult have to be there? What if the kids are just there? Is that legal?
Would that have to be a condition on a conditional use?
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. If we get to there, I mean, there's
Yeah, but
other
we
questions that are going to be
We had
prompted.
conditions before on this that they have an inspection and stuff, that sort of fell through for a while there too. There was
Well,
conditions put on there.
Yeah, and our attorney told us to be careful on the
Yeah.
conditions because you're giving yourself more loopholes to trip up on if we
we
require
don't-
an inspection every year and they don't submit that paper or we just don't go out and get that, then we are liable
Then we're
because
liable.
we're not
Could be liable.
following all those steps. So if you would put in there that an adult has to be around, okay, who's gonna monitor that and who's gonna believe who when they say an adult was around, so,
Well, and that's kind of where I was going. Where do we draw the line?
Well, here, so if you don't mind, the recommendation was the Planning and Zoning Committee was instructed to review this and then give you proposed amendments. Their proposal then is that you add language, which is in red, and they're saying that you start to draw the line and you say if you have under 1.5 acres, you will not get a conditional use permit. So they're recommending you add that language, but they're not recommending that you do that tonight. What they're recommending is that you send that out to public hearing to then come back. And so a question maybe I would have is if that's appropriate and you vote to send this to public hearing, invite the public in to comment, if you have a list of questions on what about this and that and this and that, I would request that maybe you forward that to staff and then we can do some homework on that too. So when there's a public hearing, if you vote for one, we'll have all that information then too, so that at a public hearing, we're not wondering, well, what about this, what about that? Does that make sense?
Yeah, and that's what they asked for, and really, I was there, we batted it around a few times, and I guess I just get to a point where sometimes you have to say no. You know, if you cross the yellow line, you're in violation. Can I get a conditional if I cross it only in 10 feet? No! Okay, that's just my opinion. And we get too many of these things that we gotta spend hours on, that, and Kevin makes a good point. The technology has improved a lot. I put one of these in a high school pool in 1982, and it was a thermal blanket. And when I asked, can you walk on there? Yeah, but the water's gonna go and you could still wrong. Well, that was back then. Things have changed, but I don't know. To me, it's for a pool. I don't know what the defense is. That
They have these new covers, they have auto pumps on them, and when water gets on top, it pumps it off, and they've come a long ways.
Yes, they have.
But at the same time, you want somebody taking one that's 20 years old and reinstalling it on a new pool.
Yeah, see, that's...
Would that happen? I don't think so, but, right?
Well, that could be part of the, if we so choose, that could be part of the CUP also.
Right.
It has to be new technology or da-da-da-da.
My initial thought when we did this was to develop a standard that would cover, if this is going to be, they're going to be allowed at 1.5 acres, they're going to be allowed at 1.5 acres. It's not going to be a...
You wanted to get rid of the conditional use process.
Yep. It's either going to be accepted in the town warrants or it's not going to be accepted in the town warrants. So that's kind of where I thought this would go. It's going to be an up or down, not a wishy-washy, hey, maybe this guy got it, maybe we won't. That's where I'd like to see it go. If it's a no, it's a no. If it's a yes, it's a yes. If it's a yes with this condition, great.
And that was one of the options that planning and zoning looked at too. We had everything out on the table, either go completely backwards and dissect this whole thing, or just make this small change. The other thing that was brought up was, none of this matters if the power goes out. So now you're gonna have them be on a generator. So there's a lot of questions, like Patrick said, we can bring all those things back if they actually come up at a public hearing, but so there's 101 different ways to look at it, but you can either move forward or leave it as is.
And Scott brought up a good point too. There's a lot of good points been brought up to this whole process, and that's why this is so darn tough. But like Scott says, neighbors in one situation say, we don't want it. We want a fence. And then in the next situation, that's our buddy John, but he doesn't need the fence. But neighbors change. Owners change. That's why I'm a little old-fashioned on this.
I would also consider that even if you have 1.5 acres, if you're in R1, it's probably not a good idea. Because most of the lots around here are going to be smaller and more compact. You may have 1.5.
Just because we have two lots that are next to each other.
Yeah. So I would say if we go that route, we're going to have to look at that too, that R1 probably would have to be excluded. Just because of the density of the neighborhood.
Scott, we have
If, following with what you're saying about making a blanket rule.
Yep, yeah. We have ordinance, any pool got to have a fence around it. Is that the way it reads, or
Any in-ground pool.
any what?
Any in-ground pool requires a
pool.
Yep.
So if you got one above the ground, and it's 4 feet high, you do not need a fence?
Anything, it has to be at least 48 inches above grade. Most of them by design are 52 or 54 inches above grade. So there's some method out there that protects them such to
I know when I had my pool, I had the sides, so I didn't need a fence, but where the deck went up, there had to be a gate, lock gate.
Yep.
Okay? That's where mine was.
Yeah, correct.
Years ago, and that's what I'm asking on this.
Yeah, so an above ground pool in that case, if you got a deck that raises that entry level, then yeah, you would need a gate there and things.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we're pretty well protected everywhere except for this situation.
Kevin, on your line of thought, I
don't disagree with you at all. I think maybe then we should have it like at 2 or 3 acres size-wise to help make that cutoff. I'm just throwing it out
Or,
there.
or with what Randy says, you restrict it out of R1.
Yeah, that's another option.
And R3, because then you're gonna have way more density. You know, if you're right next to R3 or something, you're gonna have an apartment full of possibly kids.
Right.
Those
So
options make more sense.
I'm okay with, why don't we just bring it to a public hearing?
I wouldn't mind.
Or we discuss it at further length amongst ourselves and work on an ordinance.
If we're gonna make this change, I'd just like to make it where it's not a CUP. I'd like it where you must meet this criteria,
Cut and dry. black
cut
and
and
white.
dry. I mean, somebody could still come with a CUP request, I guess, but hopefully it'd be few and far between if we just rewrote the ordinance to be, you must meet this. If you're not in this, then you're out.
Do you want to take a rewrite, or you just want to go to a public hearing and go at it after that? What's your,
I don't think going to public hearing is a bad idea.
get some
My,
input?
my,
Get some
my
more
hopes
input.
are, and I encourage these people to gather good information, have some experts come in. You'll have a couple of these places that sell them come in. Obviously, they want to sell them, but provide information on, factual based, not just, oh, that I got one that's 10 years old and this is what it does. Well, what does the new one do?
But public hearing, you're gonna have both sides.
Yeah.
And how you gonna weigh in on that? We had the same thing
Same
last
thing
time when they
before.
asked for conditional use. And one side saying, no, we don't want it that way, and the other side, well, we should be able to have it that way because it's good, it's new technology, everything else, and you're gonna have the same thing again, so I don't know what you're gonna gain on this public hearing, but that's what you wanna go.
See, look at, we're agonizing over this tonight. This is what I'm talking about. We got a lot of big fish to fry in this town, and we're spending a lot of, it's almost like the great chicken debate.
Hey, maybe planning and zoning should have that public hearing instead.
Well, I think public hearing, you're gonna have both sides, and then I don't know how you're making up your mind on that.
Well, I was in with Kevin here that the public hearing, just so that we get more information and more opinion, and I don't think that should be I mean, we still have to make a decision.
You need a public hearing for that, you invite the pool people in. Tell us what you got. Need the people that install these things, them are the ones that.
We had a
know
gentleman
what's
come
what.
that installs these, did a nice job of explaining it all, okay, and the safety angles. So I mean, I'm sure somebody could come in and do that. That'd be no problem at all.
Did that planning and zoning?
Yeah,
Well,
somebody would
why
come.
don't we, instead of a public hearing, why don't we move to table this and set up a date where somebody can come be informative to us?
That's kind,
Well,
I don't mean to be disrespectful, but I think that's kind of what a public hearing does though too, you know what I mean? And if you ever change the ordinance, you do need a public hearing to be able to change the ordinance. So if you did that informational get together, okay? If you were gonna change anything, you'd still have to probably schedule another public hearing anyway, and
I
then do it
think
again.
what he's trying to avoid though, Patrick, is the two sides going at it. We're sitting here, maybe we could just get information, maybe we don't want to go any further, or maybe we do want to bring it
Right.
there. It's up to the board.
And I would have more than one pool works come, I'd have a couple of them,
Yep.
because there's gotta be different types of covers.
Yeah, we had somebody come in from board, somebody come in from splash pools.
Are them different covers, or they sell them the same, you know?
I think they're a different manufacturer, but same.
Okay.
Could do just a discussion on
Well-
it. Next meeting, have those, invite those folks in.
Why don't we do that?
Well, that's what I'm
Yeah.
thinking.
Why don't we just have a
That's what he's
discussion
asking.
on it, just for our benefit, so we don't end up with a big debate, informational and discussion.
You don't have to table this.
We just do it all action.
Pardon?
Take no action.
Okay,
Okay?
somebody can set up getting us a couple people here
Well,
to
Scott knows that
do a
one
brief-
already.
small, short presentation for us.
Okay? All right. Let's see. Item 16, consideration closed session. Item number 3, we have nothing for consideration. 17, consideration of Amendment 8 of Brown County Municipal Recycling Agreement.
So in the packet, this is an annual thing. This is what allows us to get a recycling grant. So we just need a formal motion to approve us, that we're still taking our recycling stuff to the Brown County Commerce Center.
There's no change in the rates in any way?
This has nothing to do with rates.
Okay.
This
It's
is
just
just
a
that we are,
yearly agreement?
yep.
Okay.
Move to approve the Amendment 8 to Brown County Municipal Recycling Agreement.
Okay. Motion by Trumbull,
Second.
second by Van Dyke. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. 18, discussion on creating fire department ordinance. Patrick?
Got some notes, there's a quick report in the packet. One of the things we looked at that we talked about when we did the updating the resolution on banking, and we talked about state statute 66.0608, which specifically gets at the volunteer funds accounts. And what that does is it allows the town board to pass an ordinance that would authorize that the donations account or the fire department checkbook, the first responders would be a separate account too. It allows, at first it distinguishes that those funds are town-owned funds for those volunteer funds, but then it allows the town board to pass an ordinance that puts one or two or a number of designated people exclusively in charge of deposits, expenditures, but then it allows you to set limitations. So the town board can say that this account is authorized. They can say who is eligible to deposit or expend out of the account. And then you can say, you know, the account can only be used for certain expenditures or up to a certain dollar amount. You can, it goes the other way on donations too, that you can only accept so much in donations and this type of donations. Those are options you have. The third limitation that you can post on it is that you can put auditing and review requirements. The funds that have been out there have been provided, I think to the town for a monthly review. They've been part of our financials, so I mean that's not anything brand new. You'll see in your packet that we do have a draft of an ordinance that we started on. Once the ordinance was drafted, the question then arose, where does that ordinance get placed in the municipal code? Because state law says it's very clearly an ordinance that you need to pass. And so the question then is this a banking or a general ordinance? Or is it a fire department type ordinance? Well, it's very clearly related to the fire department, but the town does not have a fire department ordinance. So there's really nothing. The only thing I think the reference that's in there is on false alarms. It says either the police or the fire department will respond. And that's pretty much that, and then maybe a burning permit. Those are the only references to the town law, which is the code of ordinances when it talks about the fire department. Jennifer did a very good job of finding a pretty good example, I think, of what a fire department ordinance looks like, and it's in the town of Ledgeview. And that's been in your packet. What they do here, and I won't go through the whole thing, but just very briefly, they adopt the fire standard, so NFPA 1, which is also the same standard that we follow. Ledgeview has adopted that. They say, here's the standard we're following. From there, they do talk about the automatic fire sprinkling, the alarms, but they do then talk about the position of fire chief, how appointed. It's appointed by the board there. So the makeup of the fire department, the governance structure of the fire department, powers and duties of the officers. I mean, a lot of those things are outlined in ordinance in Ledgeview. So we started looking at authorizing an ordinance to allow for these volunteer funds to be continued in the way that they've been working in the past. But, you know, the question came into where does this get applied or where does it get ordered? And then we found we don't have a fire department ordinance. So recommendation might be that we take a look at that soon And maybe that's as part of a review of the whole organization of the fire department, because as they go from very truly volunteers to getting a paid on call to maybe getting paid, they're growing as the town is growing. And if there's ever discussion about incorporation or any of those types of things, that will start to dictate a little bit too on what the services that are provided here. So maybe a whole discussion on that.
Why would you put
Structure.
a limitation on a donation? I heard that you say that, and I.
But it's allowed by state law. You could do that. Now, I think,
Hey.
I've looked at a lot of these ordinances.
I don't want to, if somebody's giving me a donation, take whatever they give
Were you
me.
thinking of a big donation, Kenny?
No, but I just heard him mention that. You could limit
It's one of the limitations that you can place on there. So the one thing would be, a lot of times a concern from communities might be that if there's volunteer funds, and say there's 50 grand sitting in a volunteer fund, but the fire department, I'm not talking about ours because we don't have 50 grand in it, but let's just say the town or municipality budgets and authorizes their funding. If they're sitting on 50,000 but then asking for more funding, that might be a situation where you might put a restriction on, or you might say your account has to be spent on these types of things, rather than seeking out tax levy funds. Just an example type thing.
That would make.
But your point is one
That'd
thing,
make
that if somebody
more
wants to donate a house or land or something like that, you'd think in general that the limitation might go the other way, where you limit the amount of funds to be spent
Wasn't
as
that
opposed to what you
Mr.
accept.
Bonfreck that donated for the K-9 and the,
Yeah.
I don't know what we got, the 75, 80 grand out of that, something?
K-9 was 80.
80 grand?
Again, those are the limitations you can place in an ordinance, and that's where we let you know what your options would be.
Yeah. You could put a limitation, say, or as.
We take all the money they can get, we'll find a way that has
Yeah,
to be
we'll
spent.
find a way to improve it.
So I guess what you're looking for is a little guidance? on
Yeah,
which way to go here. I would say we should probably start looking at maybe starting the fire department ordinances. Maybe start with a base code, and if that's the one that looks pretty good, we can start there and start adding on. Gotta have a starting point.
Yep.
Is there anything in here, Kurt, that you see that would be?
Well, we have to go through and, some things are
But I would-
specific to Ledgeview. If you look at, just little, but
Yeah.
not a lot. The general premise is right, is correct. There's a few things that are specific, like their association, we don't have association.
Yeah.
There's little things like that, but otherwise it's pretty much right.
There may be some things we
But
can
it might
do
be-
that they didn't.
I'm just saying, just some direction for where we want to go, I would say that we should start there.
And a lot of this is state statutes.
Yeah.
I have those powers already.
So that's-
You read them on a fire scene and that, so.
Yeah.
They're just putting them in the ordinance.
Spelling them out.
Yeah. that's all.
And there's a couple things, so on what Kurt's saying on state statute. So state statute gives you options on how you provide fire service. So you can pick to establish your own department, you can join with another company for a department, you can contract with anybody to be your fire department, you can utilize a fire company, or you can create a combined public safety department. So you have to decide which one you're rolling out, you've had a fire department here.
Already done it, yeah.
So putting that into ordinance essentially just verifies this is the decision that you've made, and then it becomes the law of the town. Number two then is how do you fund that? There's different options. You can levy the entire town on taxes on the entire town. You can levy taxes on property served by a particular source of fire protection. You can appropriate money. You can charge property owners for the cost. So there's lots of different options, but essentially we've been operating fire department like we're supposed to. You have a fire department, you levy a tax across the entire town to pay for it. At a very minimum, at least adopting those as town law would be, I think, appropriate. On top of the NFPA one, and the code and all that stuff.
Basically, yeah.
Do
But
we charge a reimbursement on the county roads?
No, we don't.
Think so.
We talked to, at the fire chief's level, nobody does that in the county because they feel like we're taking it out of our own pocket.
Yeah.
And it's $200 and it's the paperwork and the time to, it might take someone $100 worth of labor to get the $200 type of thing. Paperwork.
And I didn't think we did.
No, we
so
didn't
that's
build it
something
like
we wanted or.
Yeah.
Okay. For the state, yeah.
State for that.
Yep. Question on this will be the same then. So as you develop a fire department ordinance, do you require a public hearing? And now I'm going to tell you that whatever you put together for a fire department ordinance, I would assume that a firefighter or more would be very interested in this, and that this is a matter of public concern. So you want to have a public hearing on it? Probably isn't the worst idea on something like this.
Thank you.
That's what we require, that's what we do.
So I guess the board is in agreement that we need it and that you should further develop it.
So what I think we'll do, if it pleases the board, is we will take a look with staff over the next 2 weeks. Take a look at the Ledgeview ordinance, take a look at state law and the decisions that you have to make, and then probably start to even take a look at the governing structure for the fire department and get that reviewed too as part of the ordinance development. So in 2 weeks, we'll report back to you. If that's okay?
Yep. Can I just add, you know, what happened in Hobart, they were a town and they became a village and it never changed their ordinance. So when the fire chief in a town is voted on by their members right now. Now you guys can change that with this ordinance, how you want to do it. Well, they never did it, so they had a vote and they voted for this guy. And then the going chief found out that, oh, the village appoints. So they appointed the other guy. And the members were very irate, so setting this up ahead of time,
Yeah.
everybody being well aware of things,
Yep.
is heading off a little problems down the
Yes.
future. You know,
Good point, correct.
That got real.
Yep.
It really did. It really
Yeah,
did.
that would have been,
That divided that department, they were a mess for a while.
can only
Yeah.
imagine.
So yeah, so that, setting this up now is the right way to do it. No, not first, yeah.
Well, we're suffering growth pains and
Oh, it's just waiting.
we got job descriptions we got to update, we got all kinds of things, we got public policies, procedures, so that's just part of, just one piece of the big puzzle, right, Patrick? We got to get all done, so, okay, good.
Sounds good. We'll report back to
You
you
guys
at the
have
next
worked on
meeting.
it. Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Moving on.
Moving on. 19, consideration of installation of 2 streetlights for a trail on Shirring. Scott?
You see on the map in here, we were looking at John Brevoort subdivision and talking to WPS about the application, and 5 streetlights were included in the developer's agreement. In talking about this, since we put the trail in there, for safety reasons, we're wondering if we should add 2 more lights, potentially at the town's expense. That's up to you. But we're going through the expense and the trouble to put in the trail. We should keep it safe and lighted. We could put 2 more lights then at the other intersections of Cider and Nutmeg at the intersection with Shuren Road. That would keep things pretty well lit up over there. Like I said, John Brevoort is responsible for paying for the 5 that are presently proposed. I'm waiting, WPS won't give me a price back until later this week for exactly what this would cost, based on in the past, potentially $3,700 to $4,000 a piece. Hopefully it'll be less than that, but I don't have those numbers right now. But I did want to start the conversation because WPS is going to be designing this, and I wanted to give them some feedback as far as they should design these other 2 lights in the layout.
But you're right, that just mid-distance between the existing.
Yeah, they would be at the intersection then. The one shows it actually closer to their pond.
Right.
For spacing wise, although looking at it afterwards, it's kind of might potentially light up their backyards. Maybe we should keep it closer to the streets. I'll talk to WPS.
I see that one is close to
I
the
have
street.
a question on this. Why wasn't there a street light design for whatever that is, something Dove?
That street nutmeg,
Nutmeg?
Cider Drive,
Huh?
Cider Drive you're talking about?
Right here. This one.
Nutmeg, over here, this one, or this one?
This one.
Yeah, I'm nutmeg.
Why wasn't that in the design? I thought we had them on all corners.
Intersection.
We had one on the corners of, within the subdivision, but not at Sherman.
On those two on the inside.
Yeah, but you got one for the street down below,
Yep.
but you don't have one on the other one. I guess I don't understand why.
That might have been because when they were starting to talk about this, the plan was to do just that back road, and then John decided at the last minute to add those two other interior roads.
That's possible.
There's lots of reasons why they could have gotten this.
Yeah, I just wondered what was in the.
Yeah, originally those were in phases.
Right, so that's probably, that would be my assumption of why they probably got missed. It's kind of an afterthought.
Scott, it's our trail page for something that should be
We're
the development
responsible.
agreement.
Yes.
Get them in, yeah.
And, potentially going forward is our first section of trail. Going forward, we'll have to establish some better way of putting a smaller light every 100 feet or something like that. but-
Are these the same streetlight size as we do in the others, or?
Yeah, this would
That's
be
what you're
just a
assuming.
black fiberglass, lights that we typically install.
The two that you're gonna have, it looks to me like that light one, the one that's furthest to east ought to be east a little more, to get them more centered than like this is showing.
Yeah, I'll talk to WPS about the best layout there. Maybe we, I'm not sure if there's a rhyme or reason to, like I said, where that X is showing now, it's actually gonna light up potentially the backyard of that house, which I don't think that's gonna be great, so, we might have to move that closer to the intersection. It won't be equally spaced, but it'll at least light up the intersection.
What is the outlet?
That's
That's the bond.
Is that the bond?
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, then I suppose it would take a little bit more wire, but I think you'd be better off to center that. Then it would be over the pond, not so in the backyard also.
That's potential. We could do that too.
To me, that would make more sense to do that. And is this something that we want to put the poles and everything in right away, or just get the wiring in? This is a trail to nowhere, as of yet. It is.
Yeah, as of yet.
Well, it ties into the sidewalk on Wizard Hill.
Yeah, that's the basis.
And you're
It's-
gonna
it's
convince
the back
John
of
that
the Wizard,
he
which
should
is
buy
why
these, right?
I think you're gonna have to go unless
I
it's a
talked to John about
Right.
this.
Right.
Of course, I didn't stick my neck out for the price, knowing
Okay.
what that
So
was.
you're going west then to get the Wizard?
Yes.
All right. Then I can see it, but I do believe that pole needs to be more on the outlet for, let us shine on the pond rather than somebody's backyard, that's my.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep.
Looking for that. So then the next question.
So maybe Kenny's got a good point, though, maybe we just put the wire in the ground for now. Do we really need a street light for a sidewalk that
As
goes
many
nowhere?
people that walk over there, when that subdivision's there and the pond's there, we're gonna have a lot of people walking.
Oh, yeah, that's what makes it a trail.
Well, I
Okay.
think, you know, in the fall, during the school season, when
Yeah.
it's dark at 4
Right.
o'clock.
And we're gonna have the
kids are
sidewalks
walking.
there,
Yep,
so
they're gonna be walking.
they'll do, that'd probably be actually pretty nice to come down there and go back. I'll probably do that.
I'm sure you will.
I'll see you over.
Yep.
So what do you need permission for, to make sure that it's installed currently for power, or
Yeah.
to get the lights and everything?
I need approval to propose to WPS to add 2 lights to their design, and then the responsibility of payment paid for this. Is this the town's responsibility, or do we want to try to talk to John about this?
Well, I think that one should be John's, truthfully, at that intersection.
Well, if you're gonna do that, then we should be one of both these intersections. Then the question is, we got a large space between the,
And then we just paid for a third one.
But we got them at all the intersections, don't we?
No,
no,
none of the nutmeg and
Not
sugar.
in the interior there.
both of these.
Between the 2 yellow ones.
This intersection and this intersection are not lit as currently proposed.
Oh,
We're talking about putting in 2 additional ones. Scott's trying to split the distance a little bit.
yeah, get up here.
But if we want to try to get John to put one here and here, to keep it consistent with doing the intersections. Then we got a large space between the intersections and where that pond is. Then maybe we just want to look at adding one at the pond, in the middle of the pond, just to keep it lit across the span.
Yep,
That's what I would say.
I agree.
Let John take those other two at the intersection and we'll pay for a third one by the pond. Good luck with that, Scott.
Yeah, good luck with that, Scott.
Who's talking?
Well, we can, so,
Scott is.
I'll talk to John. No, John can tell me yes. The question, so there's a couple things. One is, there's a little bit of an urgency, maybe not tonight, but one of the closed session recommendations, you don't have any action coming from closed session, but we're talking about a special meeting next week. So potentially, you split the difference and that we bring this back up at that special meeting. Okay. Next week, Tuesday. Sure. We can talk to John or whoever it might be, you know, between now and then. But the reason why there's a little bit of an urgency is because the project has a timing constraint with WPS, and if the town is looking to add something in, the less we can do to stretch out that timeline, which is already kind of stretched and tight. Well, stretched and tight at the same time. If it could be that, you know, if there's a way that we can not be responsible for any delays there with WPS, that would be ideal.
Okay.
That's a good word for it, yes.
Because if he's gonna put them out of two, then we're gonna have to run one
If he wants to split three or
We can do that, that's no problem.
Is that a choice of board?
Bring it back, that's what we're trying to do, otherwise.
Find out where he stands on it.
Yeah.
Move
Okay.
forward either way.
All right. Okay?
So no action.
No action, no. Okay, item 20, administrator report. Mr. Wenzel.
Got a written report that we sent to you with the packet, so just without reading it line by line, just touch base on the fact that we've had some negotiations in closed session about some potential land, and like I said, there is no action for tonight, but what we're looking at is potentially a special meeting next Tuesday at 5 p.m., which will probably be a future agenda item, as well as these streetlights. I did make a note with an update on where we're at with sewer service area amendments. Scott and staff have been reviewing what has developed since September of 2015 because we get a credit on that for our sewer service. And as a precursor to a potential TIF district being created, anything that you put in a TIF, so again, we're at a TIF feasibility study point right now. We do not know that we'll have a TIF, but we're studying it. In order to have a TIF established, each parcel in the TIF has to be fully within the sewer service area. Sewer service amendments, if we would seek them, we'd be looking at getting them done by the end of August. By the time it gets submitted to the county, it's a month. So all of September, we would have it at Brown County Planning, Brown County Plan Commission. And a TIF, if we would so create one, cannot be created until after October 1st. So the timing actually works out okay on that. So sewer service area amendments, TIF district information and schedule. The soonest we would be looking at a planning and zoning or a town board meeting on a TIF would be probably mid-October, late October. And then as far as economic development, obviously we have talked about marketing of the community. You'll notice that last Sunday in the paper, we did get the headline as having over the last 10 years the highest percentage of growth in the county, which I think was pretty awesome. So you get Lawrence and other Brown County towns, so it's always a good thing when you can get the front page of the paper for no cost. The only other two things I have would be the cemetery transfer request. So I did give you a report that the Cemetery Association had talked to us and met with us, talked about the potential for a voluntary transfer of the cemetery to the town, and with that, roughly $45,000 in cash and investments would come to the town as well as part of the maintenance, maintaining that. And by state law, if a cemetery would just cease to exist or an association would stop existing, many times what happens is they give that to the community. So if there's a friendly transition, if there ever was one, that's a good thing too. So we are going to touch base with them because there's some rules that are up there posted in the cemetery. And when we met with them, we talked about the idea that we want to maintain some consistency because there's things that they're telling people they can and can't do. Some of them necessarily aren't always on the signed, so we're gonna get back together with them on some rules. And the last thing I have is on the Hickory Road reconstruction and the jurisdictional transfer. This has evolved from earlier this year in February. The town had thought that if we built the road to county specs, then we would request a jurisdictional transfer. County Highway and the county board could then take that up and just accept Hickory as County S. We talked to county
Well, let
planning.
me correct that, because we never said we were gonna build that to county standards. We were gonna build it to our standard, and we asked if the county would accept it at a later date, and the answer was yes.
So,
Not the county standard.
and I'm not going to argue with
Ours.
that, and it's not on the agenda, but under my report, that's one step that was out there. We talked about that. We did meet with Troy Streckenbach, County Planning and County Highway. That's now evolved to the point where they suggested that maybe Hickory would have benchmarks. And so once benchmarks were met for traffic count development, potentially that would trigger County S.
There we go.
County Planning came back to us and said, well, those benchmarks we would have put out there that are already in the 1993 Brown County ordinance that lay out benchmarks, we already met those. But Williams Grant, County F from Freedom Road, 3.5 miles to the north to Schuring, would not meet those same standards. So where we left it at is the county is saying potentially County S, Hickory could become County S, but at the same standard, 3.5 miles of Williams Grant might have to come back to the town. Now, we cannot just have a county road forced on us. You'd have to voluntarily take it. But my recommendation, it's just on my staff report, so again, it's not an item to discuss or to, I don't want to say carry on about tonight. But my recommendation is maybe we put that aside for a little bit because we've got to work with county planning on sewer service amendments, potentially on a TIF. I think those are the important issues. County Highway, who has the contract, or County Public Works to engineer Hickory, had said that if we wait 2 months and take this up in October, there is no impact on their schedule for what's been proposed. So that's, again, like I said, it's a report, and I do know that there are strong opinions on everything I just said, but for the record, that's the report. So we'll take that up at a later date if we could. If anybody's got any
You know, I have a
comments.
hard time believing that the county standards are not met on Williams Grant anymore, especially with that school out there. Where are they taking this survey at? You know, I don't know, that road's pretty busy to me all the time. I have a hard time believing that that ain't as busy as Hickory. I don't know. I think maybe we'll have to have Randy put the car counter out there. We could find out what's there for traffic.
Well, so we'll take that up at a later date if that's
Yeah,
good.
okay, yeah, we'll do it at a later date.
Thanks very
Some of
much.
us have strong opinions,
That's all I have. Thank you.
not to mention who.
We have a few other hurdles to get over first.
Start the race, right? Okay, thank you, Patrick.
Yeah.
A little humor in there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, police chief report, item 21, Chief Bonnie.
Yes, so, I don't know where I left off, and I don't know what I reported last time, but prescription drug take-back, in case I didn't report it to you, we collected 20 cases of drugs for 348 pounds. Those were transferred down to Kenosha, no, Fond du Lac, and then from there they were going to Kenosha, where they would be incinerated. So that was pretty helpful. To date, our calls are 7870. Last year at this date, we were at 6,700, so we're up 1,100 calls from last year, calls for service. As you know, we had a fatal car accident. Well, let me see. Yes, a fatal car accident that involved a OWI by way of drugs. A passenger in the car was killed, and there was a passing. Well, think about this. there was a passenger in the car that was taken to the hospital and was released from the hospital, but then died 2 days later in Appleton. And now the question is, did he die from injuries he sustained in the accident, or did something else take his life? So we're working on whether or not that's part of the fatal accident or not. I don't know if I reported to you in the past, but there were some problems with rummage sales and people buying things at rummage sales with counterfeit money. So that's seller beware kind of things. One of them happened over on Pebblestone. The damage, you heard about the damage to the banner for the LPGA event. We're still working on that, trying to get information on who may have done that along with the spray painted signs. So that's a case that continues. LPGA was over the 4th of July, went very, very well. We didn't have hardly any issues at all. Small things that we had to deal with throughout the day. For the most part, it was very, very well attended. I talked to the LPGA director of the event, and she told me that the count was around 60,000 in attendance. I don't know what the exact figure turned out to be, but it was somewhere in that area, so it was. They were very happy with the turnout for year number 1, and that's a 3-year event. So, and they did mention that there's a possibility that perhaps they would try and change it to a week other than the 4th of July. But it sounds like at least for next year, they're pretty set on the 4th of July weekend again. So that'll be a upcoming event that we have to plan for again for next year. We helped in the eviction of a family on Packerland. You're probably all aware of what family, but it was a problem. Residents, we certainly made efforts to help assist the county and the bank, and went into foreclosure and so on and so forth. But the end result is they're out of the residence. I don't care to name them, so but they're out of there, and that's a good thing. In June, we had what was called Camp Andy, which was a very large beer party down here on the
Wayside, right, property?
yeah, Pat Castor's property, and we estimate that there were probably 400 or 500 people at this event. We made 17 arrests. DePere made some arrests and assisted us. Brown County assisted us, and they made some arrests. We still have to, Kurt and I still have to go look at the property and figure out how we're going to clean it up. There were, we recovered 8 empty half barrels of beer. That's a lot of beer.
Yeah. Not for 450 people.
There is certainly a person who puts these together and does it over social media and just puts out a blanket. They call it Camp Andy, and it's a blanket social media invite at the last moment, and people come from everywhere. There was supposed to be another one
2 more.
last Saturday on Miners Way, behind Transmotion. They had already stolen a what do you call them? Porta potty from a construction site, and had that out there. They had some couches and stuff that they set this place up, and they have tents, and everybody from
I mean, there were people from Appleton and Oshkosh and all over the place at this event. And we headed that one off at the pass. I don't know, hopefully we can get more of the information that we got on this last one and keep heading them off the pass, but they're very large and take a lot of manpower and a lot of officers and a lot of hours, and they're a mess, and someone's gonna get hurt if we can't stop it.
We had it to other counties, we had a county man, Manitowoc, because the fire chief in Wayside runs a towing service, and he got called in to pull vehicles.
Oh, they-
Yeah, he said the 3 cops in County Met were freaking out because they had 500 kids and 3 cops on it.
Yeah. And that's a big problem. I mean, they could,
And you can't
every single one of them had their cell phone, and I mean, as soon as the cops got there, they knew it, and according to my officers, all they saw was all these flashlights or cell phones, this is what they were, scattering through the woods when there's 500 kids just running through the woods. Anyway, we towed, I don't know how many cars, like 40 or 50 cars out of there. And they had to pay, obviously, the tow bill and pick up their citations.
There's no way to trace the organizer of this to figure out?
Yeah, we know who it is. He went to jail.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, that's
But he doesn't care.
Somebody's.
He doesn't care, and he yeah. He's a handful.
I mean, how does this get funded? Is that a way to stop this? Obviously, there's some money involved to have that kind of quantities of things and.
Well, I think he charges at he actually had a sign up over here on a 4x8 sheet of plywood that said Camp Andy entrance, just inside the woods, and I think he charged at the gate. And so that's
Porta potty's still there, isn't it?
Pardon?
Porta potty's still there, isn't it?
No, the construction company came and got it.
There was one there 2 weeks ago.
Where? Behind Transmotion?
Oh, back in Pat Caster's woods, according to Tom Pierrot.
Oh, I don't know if that one's
That's
still
the
there.
old
now.
one.
That's the old site, yeah. And Kurt and I are gonna go out there and try and figure out how to, it's a mess down there. A lot of garbage around, and so we talked to Pat and told her that we'd get out there and try and figure out how we can get something cleaned up for her. So we're working on that.
And not, why is it our obligation to clean up?
Well, it's not.
Okay.
I think we just wanted to be courteous, best we could. I don't know if we can clean it all up, but whatever we can clean up, we would probably clean up this stuff. Get rid of it.
I mean, she might want to take a little onus on this too. It was her property and she obviously.
Oh, and she will. She will.
Well, I mean, neither did we.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, but as far as cleanup, my intent would be to clean up the tents and stuff that are out there so that they don't come back again.
Yeah.
It was quite an ordeal. Computer scams, we continue to have computer scams. Many of them are people that are on their computer and they get this alert saying that their computer is been hacked into, or their this or that needs to be fixed, and if you allow us access, we can fix it for $39.95, and 2 hours later it's $795, and we had one lady that gave me $2,500 before she ever figured out what was going on. We can't investigate them. The numbers come back, as you know, to everywhere but in the U.S. and you dial a number and it's just a dead number. It looks like it's coming from the U.S., but it's not. So they're very hard to control, and they're very hard to, and they love to prey on the elderly. I don't consider my wife elderly, but she just is this close to giving up some stuff, and I just happened to come home and I'm like, it's a scam. get off of it. But anyway, it happens to the best of them. Quick Trip had a theft. We know who did it. One suspect pumped gas in her car while the other suspect went in and loaded her purse with belongings that she didn't pay for. We were able to track them down. We put it on Facebook and we had their names in about 3 hours. Not only their names, but where they lived and a whole bunch of comments. But anyway, yeah, so they are.
The positive side of Facebook.
Yes. We had an embezzlement or theft case, older couple that had people in their house that they knew that took advantage of them and took $30,000 pretty much in cash in just a few days, well, maybe more like a week. But so we found out who that was. We arrested the suspect, put her in jail. She was out of jail 2 days later, out on bond, and did it again the day she was released from jail. So now she's back in jail for bail jumping and some more theft, and so now she's going to be sitting some time. But obviously, drug related. Need the money, that kind of thing, so it's never good. Granite Stoneworks had a employee theft where they have a lot of people that are employed there that they trust and give business gas cards to, and this person never showed up for work and just went on a shopping spree and bought lottery tickets and gas and groceries, whatever you can buy in a gas station, he bought it. And so we talked to them about, for sure limiting what their employees can buy with that card. They should be able to lock that card so that the only thing they can purchase with it is gas. They can't go in and buy lottery tickets and groceries. And so and that guy happened to be on probation, so he's back in jail. The Hemlock Fun Run is this Saturday, the 19th.
Are you
starting
running,
at
Chief?
8:15. I am, but I'll be in Florida running. I have to go visit my son and grandchildren, so I'll be in Florida. But there will be police officers there. Vax will be doing a demonstration again. The fire department will be there. So don't forget about that. If you have time, you should stop in and see that. Dan and I are this week assisting NWTC with, we have a bunch of chiefs and upper management police from Trinidad, Barbados, Bermuda, all of these other countries that are here for a week trying to learn about American policing and what we do and trying to get ideas. And so we are helping to host that event and train these guys and gals, and they're very interesting to talk to. Somewhat hard to understand, but very, very interesting to talk to. And they're liking today was.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Is there anything planned for getting together with Hobart to talk for the police mid-year?
Yeah.
Especially the budget coming up, is there anything that you're aware of that we've got scheduled or not?
Pat and I have talked about that. I talked briefly with Aaron, the new administrator over there, and he's in the process of trying to hammer out the budget and get it somewhat put together, and then I think we're going to have a joint meeting to go over that budget.
Because I know we've got the second year that phased in, is supposed to be this budget year for increased police force, so.
Yes.
I'd really like to see where we're going with that.
Right.
Chief, timing is important here, because last time it was too late to do anything, everybody had set everything up.
We
So
agreed last
it'd be
time.
to our advantage, and I mean, the police department, us, to get together with them earlier to get that done, okay?
Exactly. I'm hoping it's this month sometime, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you and Patrick stay on it and let's
Thanks.
get that date set.
Appreciate it. And I don't know if he's had any more conversation with Aaron or not.
And we're trying to find, we have on a couple other issues, but just trying to find a date.
Okay.
Uh,
So we'll get it to you.
Okay, 22, Chief Minton.
Yes, for the year so far, we have 78 calls, so we've been out on, different calls for 78 of them. Our command vehicle, as Kenny said, we purchased it and we, spec'd it out ourselves. So the lights have been installed, the graphics are on it, the caps on it, the rollout tray. We just have to start putting some equipment in, and a few guys are working out of town this week, a few officers, so next week we want to get together, we're going to try and get that list put together, get it finished out, but it is able to respond or be used if we need to. So we're that far. We did receive a grant as of last week, thanks to Kevin Breenan and a few, Emily helped you. Wrote a grant for a 5-gas monitor, which we're going to be putting in the command vehicle by Wisconsin Public Service grant. We got $2,000 towards a $2,800 gas monitor. We actually found out about this monitor from Bellevue. They got it last year, I believe. 2 years ago. So we actually, got their information, put it together, so we were awarded that. So I don't know exactly when we get the money, but
They're supposed to be mailed check in the next week or two.
okay. And then, but the stipulation is with to put their foundation logo out on our website and our Facebook. Advertise that we got the grant once we get the information. And so I sent Patrick the logo already. We just got to get the information when it comes in.
What is that, carbon monoxide or others?
Yep.
It's 5 different gases. We can choose what gases. There's different monitors for different things, but carbon monoxide, hydrogen cyanide,
Hydrogen cyanide,
oxygen levels,
explosive gases, sewer levels.
sewer gases.
See, what they're finding out is hydrogen cyanide is what's killing firefighters and people that think they have CO, and it's not that's killing them. Hydrogen cyanide gets in your blood, and now Green Bay Fire Department carries 2, basically EpiPens. They're made for this hydrogen cyanide. If you have a fire victim and they come out, they have them in their squads. They rush out and they give them that shot right as soon as they can find the victim. They have saved several lives. The Green Bay chief in Illinois has researched this, and their department was one of the first ones in the nation when he was down there in Illinois. So that's a big thing, and to find out firefighter health that you go in, the CO level's low enough, you don't need your air mask, go in and overhaul them. To find out this hydrogen cyanide is hanging in the air much longer, many hours after the fire, inside the burnt building, and its long-term effects of firefighter health, cancer and stuff. It's came out in the last few years, so this hydrogen cyanide, Deep Ear has one. So we had when we had our house fire over by Laney's house over there, they brought theirs out and they went in and checked it for us. So now we'll have one of our own. We get different CO, like I said, we get an oxygen level, explosive levels, and sewer gas is another thing. A lot of people get in their home and they think they got I got a gas leak. Well, it's sewer gas, backup sewer. So that's in there also. Another thing we have is our hose replacement program. Every 10 years by state law, you have to replace your hose, just like you got to replace the tires on the fire truck every 10 years. They want you to do that. So even if they're not wore out. Well, we had some stuff in capital, 5-inch LDH, some hard suction that we're going to purchase for this year, but then about 800 feet of hand line. That's a line you use all the time, starting to wear out. So every year we'll probably have a budget line where we'll start replacing a little bit here and there, because when you get the grant, it's $50,000. The hose is nice, but
I can remember that.
remember that already, breaking down 10 years. It is, it's 2010, so when we get so we have some stuff that's wearing out a little bit, we'll start replacing that now, and slowly every year just kind of add to it, replace it. We do have our annual testing coming up here in September. Our outside service comes in, so if something fails, you fix it, obviously, but so. I have a little typo here. It's supposed to say workout area is complete, so anybody that wants to go lift some free weights or get on the treadmill, it's up there. It's operational. It's very popular. It's very used quite a bit. Weekends and nights, you see a lot of people up here. They actually have a sign-up sheet. We actually call it the Vinoy workout area because Angel and Andy are big workout gurus, and they will train you and help you. So it's kind of a joke up there. It's the Vinoy workout. But a lot of people sign up just to come and use the treadmill, and they sign up that they're going to be in 4 o'clock on Thursday or whatever. So so you kind of get stuff. So it's working out well.
Good.
We'll be at Hemlock on Saturday, as we talked about, and one thing I didn't list, Wednesday we'll be at the airport for their, every 3 years they have a disaster drill. So I'll be there helping with the water shuttle. We're going to have a tender there. I don't know if we're having an engine, but we'll probably have our new utility vehicle. We're taking about 5-6 people out there. A couple of younger members want to experience. Once you get on your runway, see how mass things are and all these. It's an eye opener for the first time, and they got 200 high school kids or whatever laying there dying, screaming, parents running around. It's an experience, so it'll be a good experience for them, so we'll be there Wednesday. so.
Great. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, and item 23, building inspector, zoning administrator report, Scott?
Just to follow up on the Board of Appeals, just wanted to let the board know that, so current members right now then are Larry, John Ward, Andy Selner, Bob Kidney, and Mike Van Dyke. So those are current Board of Appeals. For projects, we've got, you have the list here of 11 commercial accessory permits. Those are mostly signs and minor alterations of commercial buildings. The biggest one there is the Keller Williams building. It's looking real nice. They want occupancy here over the next couple of days or a week. They're making room for about 60 to 120 employees. So that's going to be a well-used building. Total of the residential new homes then is 39 new homes plus 3 twindos, so 6 more units, so 45 residential units. We're running low on lots, so there's not a whole lot coming in right now, but actually we're not too far off the pace from where we were at this point last year. We had 50-some last year, so considering that we are having to use up pretty much every lot we have available, we still got real good activity up until this point, and we'll see what happens now with the weather straightening out with John reports moving forward. Maybe we get some, we'll get some in there soon, and maybe we'll end up with 8 or 10 by the end of the year or something for permits at least in there. So we'll end up just fine there. So overall, residential is as it has been. And the good news on the commercial is we continue to get phone calls about expansion. Some of those things are coming together. You'll see a review on those. But the overall discussion, I guess, is everything that we've done in the last few years is really strong. You know, the paper transport, A&J Mobility, the leaders, a lot of those companies are coming to us and just, they've been strong. And they're strong because of the rooftops that we've been putting in over the last few years too. So there's just it seems as though there's a real good balance, strong management of growth. And when we see the newspaper articles and we kind of also know what's going on behind the scenes, I think both of those point to some pretty good things, and we'll get some other things going here over in the next 6 months to a year. So overall, everything's looking good. We're busy looking at new things. So if anybody has any questions for me.
Are they gonna have some kind of an open house or whatever for the realty?
I don't know. I haven't
Okay.
heard anything yet, but I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, they're all about advertising and promoting and stuff.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Very good. Thank you, Scott. Okay, item 24, finance director report, Jennifer.
So in the packet, I had the month-end statements for June. Chance to look at, if you have any questions. I'm not gonna go line by line.
I gave Pat 1 or 2 numbers I want to check on. That's about all I.
That was on, I think, health pay in the clerk office equipment health pay. I think it was, there's a budget for 2,000, but the actual, I think, was at 8,000.
Yep.
That's
So
just
we
a
have
line item, but
money in fund balance. Or the way the budget was approved is there was 2,000 going in there, and then the additional was coming out of fund balance. That's allocated for admin.
So that's why the clerk one was 63% of budget. or-
Yep. Fire department one will look like that too.
Well, the other one was ambulance, but that was because you paid 3/4 in 6 months, so that was explainable. The only other question I had, and I forgot to bring it up during the bill approval, what was all the corrections on the credit cards for refunds or what? What was that all about?
Those got charged to our account for some reason. I called Amazon, they reversed them all.
It's not ID theft or anything, is it?
No.
The other question was, there was 3 months bills worth here. Usually we should be getting those on a monthly basis, right? Okay. Is there a reason that we had 3 in a row all on this one, or?
Just like a time.
Okay. Because some of those were actually paid out before we approved them. Right?
Right.
That's all I have.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, thank you, Jennifer. 25 future agenda items, the discussion on pools, new eye presentation. What else do we have?
So the purchasing surplus policy wasn't on this meeting, so it's held from the previous meeting. The new eye update, pool cover discussion, draft fire department ordinance, installation of 2 street lights for Sherry Road, and then a special meeting on August 22nd at 5 p.m.
Right, okay, good.
Anything else?
I don't think so. Jennifer sent out a email on 14th. For Department of Administration, the population for the town as of August 14th is 5,158. So we just crossed that 5,000 mark. So if you remember, last year we were 4,900 and something. So wow, it's growing fast. So thank you for that information. I guess the Pearl of Brown County continues to grow. So, all right. And I don't think we have anything else, so we don't need closed session. No.
22nd.
Yeah. Yeah, right. So no action, or no need for the closed session for 27, return to open session. Move to adjourn. Move to adjourn by Vandehei. Second by Vandehei.
Adjourn.
Yes. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried unanimous. Thank you, everybody.